Reach high, aim high, and obtain. What got me actually into sprouting years ago is actually this book. And it's the blending book, and this was actually created by Ann Wigmore because she went through a health situation and was needing to restore her health at one point in her life. And one of the things she did, and I have this flagged, and it's on page 38, and it's called Making Rejuvelac. And this is actually the process on how to make natural Acidophilus in your own home using wheat berries. And you may be like, wait a second, I can make homemade Acidophilus? Yes, you can. It all begins with the sprouting process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the instructions in here from Ann Wigmore regarding the making Rejuvelac, because that's the main thing that actually makes the natural Acidophilus from these grains. We'll show you how we sprout the grains, specifically show you how we do, and you can create your own homemade Acidophilus. Another great thing about the sprouting that I want to mention is because things like nuts and grains such as this contain what's called phytic acid, and that's PHYTIC acid for those of you that are curious. It actually binds to nutrients and prevents the body from absorbing the nutrients that are naturally present in the foods. And so therefore, when one sprouts them and sprouts the nuts, and I sprout my nuts, and I have a great example of a sprouted almond nut, and I will have to show you how we do that because that's just awesome, is it actually helps to remove that phytic acid. In nuts, it also removes what's called a enzyme inhibitor, and it actually helps make the foods more easily digestible to the body. And with that easier digestion, that means you're getting more nutrients out of your food. What we're going to do then is we're actually going to take 2 cups of our berries, and we're going to put this in a half-gallon container. Okay, so there are 2 cups, and then we're also going to add, and I found this years ago. This is a product, it's called Dr. Willard's Ultimate Water Ultimate Concentrate with naturally occurring trace minerals, and added it to his Willard water creation. And this is something that can be taken with one's water, and it's got how to do it and the measurements to use. This is a company that we also use the plant kettles in, but you basically shake it, and I have this little pour spout that I put on it, and we're basically just going to do this. And that's why I love this pour spout, is it gives me control of the portions that I use. And I can just do a teaspoon, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to follow that by filling this full of water up to the top. Now what we are going to do is we are going to add our water and show you how this is. So I purposely put the funnel there because I want to prevent any potential water splatters. Okay, and we are filling it to our 8-cup line, so just a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And now what we will do, put our lid on this, and we will just leave this for 10 hours. We just find a place to just leave it alone, and then we'll come back and show you next steps. It has been the needed about 12 hours. It's ideally 8 to 10, but timing-wise, 12 hours I found for us works best. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna strain our water, and this is the combination of the water with the Willard water concentrate in it. Get that strained, okay? And then we're going to rinse them again. I'm purposely using my funnel so I don't have a big spill. Okay. I'm gonna use my stainless steel lid here with the seal on it. It's by the same brand. Turn on. Give it a quick, good shake. Get everything well rinsed is what she refers to it as. We'll put a special lid back on, and then we're going to drain it again. I'm purposely turning it upside down to get all of that water as much as possible. You can see it's still coming up there just a little, okay. And then I'm gonna shake it just because I wanna make sure I get everything off of the lid from the turning upside down. And now we're gonna put it in our special place for it to sprout. So let's move over to our sprouting location. This one. So Dad built us a couple of these, and we're gonna use this one right here. So basically the back's higher than the front, and the front's been cut out to perfectly facilitate the size of the container. And what'll happen is, you can see right here, the water is coming out of here and then dripping down into our kitchen sink. So that way we don't have a whole bunch of clutter, but it's pretty and organized, and we can visually also see the sprouts. Now, if you want to take it an extra step, which you can, and she does recommend, you can put a cover on this. Now, what you can do is cover it. I like to make sure I leave the lid part uncovered, but we use our little Bon Appetit towel I bought a few years back, because who doesn't like Bon Appetit, right? And then we'll let it drain here, and then we'll come back, and for the next 2 days now, at least 2 to 3 times, we basically do it 2 times, 1 in the morning and 1 at night. We find that's most convenient. But ideally you would want to, if possible, to do this 3 times. And you basically refill it with filtered water again, rinse them around, shake them around, drain it again like I showed you, and you put it back here. And that's what you need to do again 2 to 3 times over the next 2 days. Because of what we're doing, there's no actual grains really getting to the front, which is fabulous because it's facilitating everything draining, but nothing really covering the main hole here. And that's what's so important, is to avoid covering the holes of these so that it really is getting the ventilation for sprouting. Okay, so we're going to do the rinse for tonight. I don't know if you can see it, but a few of those, I'm seeing a little bit of a white head pop out.
Awesome.
Not on all of them, but actually I think you can see it better here. You can see just a few of them have the white head to them. That little bit of the white head is actually the sprouting. So we're already doing really good. And then we're gonna put on our lid, and then we're gonna strain
Love the stainless steel lids too. Those
Yeah,
are
these
so
are-
helpful.
these
Now
are
they
also-
do have those that have the like legs on them, but they're
Yes,
plastic.
we actually have those. Yeah, we had those a few years back. And yes, they do work, but we found this method works better because if you're turning it completely upside down, it's not getting enough ventilation, I feel at times, because then all the grains are actually on top of where you're trying to get the ventilation that actually makes sprouting happen. And this method with the platform Dad made us here, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm gonna see if maybe you guys can help me convince him that he should sell them, make them and sell them. And maybe we could get some feedback on our channel to tell him he should sell these because they're absolutely beautiful. And they do such a great job too. And he even put, I don't know if you can see, but he put little cushions on it that actually protects our countertops.
Whatever it is that,
Yeah, it protects our countertops and the surface, okay? And then there you go. And then we're going, and you can see, oh, see right there? There's a piece of a bit of a sprout, and right there, a little bit right there, but you see it more for some reason in this one, right up there. Can you see that?
That's awesome.
So it shows you it's already sprouted.
working.
Yeah. I'm gonna put our towel back on, and we'll do the others. but at least that gets us the first set done. There you go.
Sprouts
And
are
we'll
under
come
dark cover.
Yes, and then we'll come back tomorrow morning and we'll do that same process again. The next morning, so we're gonna take off our towel. Bring with, oh, look at this. See how much sprouting? See that?
It's doing good.
It's doing really good. So then, going to add water because we're rinsing them again. Remember, it's the rinse and strain because we're trying our best to keep the contents moist, because the moisture without, obviously the overwhelming of the moisture is what helps them to sprout. So put in our lid. We'll give it a good shake. Alright. And then of course, the drain. But look at all the sprouts.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
Let me turn on the light there. There we go.
Oh, that's nice.
I forgot to turn on the light. Apologies. Okay. Just making sure we get the majority out. Okay. So I'm going to shake it down. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
And then we'll put it back up there. Give them a dark spot. And you can see this one's still kind of draining right here. And we're going to let that do that. And then we'll come back again tonight and do it again. We're going to be doing this again. Look at how big they've gotten.
Oh my goodness.
And that's
fabulous.
just since this morning.
That is
You can see how
fabulous.
much, just a little bit of time will change things just a little. But the water, I don't know if you want to get a better view with that or not.
Look at that. Look how much they've grown.
Yep, got a few there on the lid there. But isn't that awesome?
So now
So
you're doing
we're gonna add more
the
water.
filtered water,
Yes, always filtered water, or the
or
best
spring water, or well water.
basically the best water that you can get to do this with. But you got to realize that one thing that we did do that also is helping the situation is the fact that we put Willard water in it. I mean, look at how full it is too.
Sheesh.
That's a full container basically at this point.
Remember how low it was before?
We started with 2 cups. You got to realize that.
Great.
2 cups of wheat berries, and we now with the sprouting have a full container. And it'll get even bigger because we're going to do this tomorrow morning is when we're going to, let's see, we've done yesterday, we did twice today, and tomorrow will be tomorrow morning I should say, will be our last day of doing this. I'm just trying to make sure I get the majority of the water, and I like to shake it down so it's not covering the vent. And you can see it's just a little bit of coverage there where it's sticking. But other than that, we're good. Now, this is an instance, remember how I mentioned how there are some lids that have the platform with the plastic? If I were to do that, see that? It would cover the hole, and it's not getting really any ventilation in there. But by using this kind of lid and the platform my dad made, I can shake it down. See, it gets off the metal. It gets off the metal. And then by angling it, then I get my ventilation too.
Wow.
So that's one
Look at
thing.
that.
Yeah. So it's one thing I do want to mention that I just find this approach works a lot better to get the true. I mean, look at how long the sprout is right here, for example. I mean, that's almost like an inch. And that's just showing you how powerful doing this approach with the sprouts is. And you can see it's still leaking water now.
And then you cover it up and it'll be...
Yeah. I'll take my towel because you want to kind of you want them to have the ventilation, but you also want to kind of have them, covered in some way. So it's kind of making the perfect moist, humid, dark environment. But that's how come we also use the filtered water, and why we do it the way we do, because you got to realize that there's also, when you're talking humidity and moisture, there's also potential for things like mold. So that's why it's very important to be careful how you do this kind of stuff, because you're wanting to facilitate the sprouting, but control the situation under which you're doing this. So I'm going to get this out of the way so we can do next steps with our wheat berries. And we're going to check them out here. So you can see we've had our cloth in it overnight. And we're just going to take that out and see how they're doing.
Oh, wow.
Now look at how long those are. It's completely a full container of sprouted wheat berries. Look at that. It doesn't even want to move. It's gotten so dense. So to do making our Acidophilus. So, I mean, look at that. It's so dense from the sprouts. So we'll fill it up with water, and this is the final rinse that we do. That's only for making our Rejuvelac or Acidophilus. And then you can find Acidophilus in a bunch of different foods. I believe one of them is like kimchi, cultured vegetables. It's fascinating how many. It's just so thick. It doesn't want to shake really well. But we got them all coated in our water. And now we're gonna, oh look at that, it's stuck to the lid. So we're gonna strain this. Okay. So we got that thoroughly rinsed. Now to make our Acidophilus, this is where the next stage happens. So I'm going to scrape off those wheat berries on our lid there. It likes grabbing with the, once it's got these tails on there, it can kind of stick through just a little bit, so just be aware of that. So now we're going to add water and cover our wheat berries. Let me push this down just a little bit with my clean hands, of course. But we're going to cover the wheat berries with water, and this is actually the stage that's going to make our Acidophilus. And we're going to cover this with a cloth lid because we want it, I should say, to breathe. But the main focus is we're going to let it sit now for 48 hours, just out of the way, and let it do its thing for 40 hours. And what will happen is the water will actually become more of like a golden brown color. And what it is because we've sprouted it, the water will actually become infused with the minerals and the vitamins that's actually present in the wheat once it's become sprouted, because we have used this process to reduce the folic acid and the enzyme inhibitors so that we can actually have the minerals released into the water. That's what's so fabulous about this. And Wigmore actually restored her health using this because she went through a health crisis at one point in her life. And so she tried to figure out what to help her life with and to help her heal. And so she came up with a bunch of ingredients that using this as the starter, or just before one eats or between meals, because she says you don't want to dilute your digestive juices and the acids in your stomach that's needed to digest the food. But using this in between the eating cycle or before one eats, she says it actually is loaded with enzymes too. So it actually helps with digestion through the intestines and everything. And you can use this because of the cultures that are in it, and realize that even if you refrigerate this, which we will be doing to reduce the amount of fermentation, it keeps fermenting. It keeps actually becoming more potent. And it might get to a point that you'll say, oh my goodness, this has gotten too strong. And you'll have to, just say it is what it is and kind of back away from it and not use it at that point, because it can become excessively strong in flavor. But we're going to put this to the side, and I'm going to get a cloth to cover this with. We're going to take, it's one of my cloths I got from Yemas, and I love it because it's so strong of an elastic. Yes. And so there's no rubber band or cheesecloth I'm having to use special for this.
Oh, that came from Amazon?
No, it came from Yemas. I absolutely love their products when it comes to fermenting and doing cultures. And they have milk kefir cultures and water kefir grains, and I love their product. And they're also a family that they were trying to restore their health and got into cultures, and they've been doing it ever since with their company. They have some wonderful, they have a heating mat that I've been trying to get. And to clarify in regards to this and the 48 hours, in case it didn't come through clearly enough, this, you sit for 48 hours at room temperature. You don't put this in the fridge because you have to give it time to infuse the water. Once the 48 hours have passed, we will actually strain, and we'll use this fabulous thing, put it on the lid and strain the water into a container we'll put in the fridge.
Okay.
Then we'll refill it again and do then 24 hours, because you can actually get out of this one container 3 batches.
Oh, wow.
The first one is 48 hours, the second one 24 hours of processing, and then the third one 24 hours. And then after that, you've basically taken all the minerals out of the wheat because there will be nothing really left in the grains to use. It has now been 48 hours, so we're gonna lift this up. We are going to put our lid on. And then we're going to, and you can see how many bubbles are forming, and we're gonna strain that. And this is our first batch of Acidophilus. And you want to make sure it gets covered with water when you're doing this process. Put a weight on the top. But you'll see it starts getting kind of thicker the more you get towards the bottom. And that's okay. Okay, so that is our first batch of Rejuvelac. So now what we're going to do.
So we got about a quart out of it, right?
Yep. Putting in a weight there to keep it under, and then we're going to fill it with more filtered water, and then we'll do 24 hours, add to our first batch. After we strain that, then we'll do another 24 hours. We're going to cover it, let it sit, and we purposely put it in a plate because I am leaving it uncovered, and let it do its thing. Now what you can do is also use a standard cover lid, but the problem is that the air bubbles will start forming and it will cause pressure. So if you don't want this kind of a thing, but you want more of a seal, you can do a water seal lid with the hole in the middle and the water seal at the top. You just need a way for the pressure to come out so that it doesn't deform your lid.
Because it's like a carbonated.
Yeah, because even right here, see here? I poured it a while back and you can still see that there's air bubbles on the top. It's now been our 24 hours. You can see how dark it is in this glass. That's because this is a 48-hour processing. This is a 24-hour processing. So even though it's cloudy and slightly brown, or beige, I guess I should say, it's a lighter color than your first 48-hour batch. So do be aware that your 2 batches after that initial one are going to be diluted. So we're going to put our straining lid on top, put our funnel on top of our container, because that way we can avoid spills. And then we're going to put it in. And be careful because of the weight that we have in there. And then you can see there was a lot of bubbles that occurred in the batch because it is a ferment and you want to go like that. Now if you're concerned about the weight here, potentially, because it could, if you just did that and you weren't careful, this could potentially crack. So you might want to remove it before doing your straining. Otherwise, you're good to go. Now we need to add more water to it, again, covering everything. That will be our last step. 24 hours again, And then that's it. Of our water that we have put over our wheat berries with their Pickel Pebbles is what they're called. And we have that on top of our wheat berries to hold everything in place. And we also have it in a plate. That's just in case, but not necessarily needed for overflow, because it is a ferment. It can cause expansion, and it's a way of kind of controlling things just in the event that there's ever any overflow. And this is just what we'll leave now for 24 hours. We'll come back and we'll do it again. So here's our last day. And because it's our last day, I made sure my hands are clean. I'm gonna reach in and I'm gonna get our puck here and put it to the side. And you can see all the air bubbles from the ferment are suddenly getting released, which is awesome. It means we got ourselves a good quality ferment. So we're going to take this, and we again are going to drain the water off, because we're looking for the water at this point. Now you can see, compared to the prior day, how white it is. And that's because this is the last day of processing for this. Let's shake it out. Okay. So now you can see how white this is compared to the first 2 days. That doesn't mean it doesn't have goods in it. It just means it's not as potent, because we've done so much with that first 48 hours that made it so strong. Now this, at this point, becomes seed for the birds. So feel free to take this out, you know, you go to the park or what have you, and just feed the birds. You would put these in the fridge, and you can actually see there's condensation on this because it's been in the fridge. But you would put this in the fridge, and like I said previously, you would consume this between meals or slightly before a meal, because it has enzymes that help with digestion. It's got minerals. It's just awesome. And it's acidophilus, so it also helps with restoring the body and its ecology. However, there is such a thing as over-fermentation. And even though this will be put in the fridge, which reduces how much and how quickly the fermentation continues, it is still fermenting because of the type of beverage it is and the way it was made. So there will come a point where you might say, that's a little bit too strong, or I can't do this anymore, because it is going to continue fermenting. Even when you put it in a cooler environment, it will continue to ferment. So be aware of that, and when that happens, then you could technically put it in your garden, basically say, okay, time to do a new batch, and move on.